This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
Appreciate it. Yay. Well, I want to thank you all for coming out on such a wet, kind of cool day, spring day. I just want to put a plug in for the library. It says that when I first moved here, I've been here just over a year, and one of the first things I did was go out and get a membership to the library. And last summer, which was my introduction to Ashland, I had so much fun and pleasure getting wonderful books from this library that really fed me deeply while I was finding my way rooting here. So I'm happy to be here tonight supporting the library and all it gives to the community, and hopefully giving back just a little bit. So the title kind of says it all in terms of what my intention is tonight. I'm a big believer in intention, by the way, so all my sessions and talks kind of start with just letting you know where I'm coming from and what my intention is. My intention is to stimulate your mind enough and to give you enough practical pieces about reflexology, what it is, and how it could support you in your life, as well as open up your mind to possibilities of how reflexology might actually take you into places maybe more unknown to you. And what I mean by that is reflexology is a piece of a wider umbrella of my practice that I call soul-to-soul wellness. And most of you have seen on the flyer, I kind of play around with the words soul and soul. S-O-L-E to S-O-U-L is how I frame the body of work that I do. Reflexology being one of the primary pieces, because I have found it so profound in terms of helping me as a support person towards people's whole body, whole being wellness in understanding what's going on in their body, what's understanding what kind of a person they are. You can learn so much through the feet. I don't know if any of you saw the listing here for the library, but one of my favorite quotes, I put it in the description, which is a Rumi quote that says, your hands and feet have a secret language. No, your body has a secret language. Your hands and feet say what you've done. And I loved it when I finally came upon that quote, because that's been true for me in my experience with reflexology, is that by touching and connecting and interfacing with the soul of another person, I receive deep information from very practical physical levels to not so practical, more metaphysical levels of what's going on in their consciousness. And that just happens again and again and again in the chair. So a little bit about myself, since most of you don't know me, I've been involved in body, mind, and soul practices for about 25 years. It's kind of been my passion my whole life. And started out more in the psychic realm, moved more into the body realm. I am a Brima instructor and a Pilates instructor, and delve into the Enneagram and do coaching, life coaching. And I came upon reflexology in 2000. I had moved to Santa Cruz at the time and met this woman, Joanne Tennant, who became my teacher. And I was just fascinated by what this woman could know about me and sense by touching my feet. And I remember it was a small thing. I don't have a big dramatic story. Like, she had a major physical ailment that, she was supposed to never walk again when she was like 19 years old. And her teacher did reflexology on her. That was her primary medicine for getting well. And so she was a convert, and so she'd been doing this her whole life. And for me, I remember she came across some things. She's like, oh, do you have any problem with your right eye leaking, like tear duct? And I'm like, no. She's like, oh, no. And then, like 2 days later after the session, one night I was up reading, and my whole eye duct just opened up and started leaking out. And I was like, how did she know that? And so it intrigued me enough that I went back for more. And she's quite a remarkable woman and healer in her own right. So we did trades for a while, and then I learned reflexology, and I had a Pilates clientele, and so I had all these willing guinea pigs. So I was always using reflexology to cross-reference with my Pilates clients. They'd say, oh, this is really going on, you know, in my shoulder or my foot. And I'd start going, oh, you know, I'd start checking it out. Because what you do in reflexology is you cross-reference from the body to the foot and also from the foot to the hand. Because these, you know, are the maps of the body, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So she and I did a trade for a number of years, first for Brima Bodywork for reflexology, and then ultimately I took her course and we started trading reflexology. But the soul-to-soul part is something that's really become my own signature in the past couple of years. And it happened, quite frankly, when I crossed the border into the wilds of Baja and gave myself, I unplugged from my life in Santa Cruz, from every identification that I had or thought I had, really let go. And as soon as I crossed the border, I took a chair with me, and some of you will get a chance to experience this wonderful zero gravity La Fuma chair. It's a French design, and it's really quite comfortable. And as soon as I crossed the border, all of a sudden I started connecting with Mexicanos and gringos alike, and this was one of our main forms of communicating, and I just started getting downloads and impressions, and it took my work in reflexology, but it had always been kind of in the background as a practical tool, to the forefront and into other realms. And so I just want to say that the soul-to-soul part, although I'm an excellent reflexologist, the SOUL part has been just in the past couple of years. And I'll maybe talk a little bit more about that. So I'm happy to share that with you. And that's something, obviously, the SOUL part gets more transmitted in a personal session or, you know, ongoing time together. But I do want to give you a sense, a broad stroke of what reflexology is and how it can support you. How many people have experienced reflexology? A little bit, she says. So that's about half of you. And how many had a good experience with it? Was it helpful? 2. Sort of. Okay. And how many think it's just kind of quackery and doesn't really hold much to it? Nobody there. Okay. I was wondering how many people just show up on Tuesday night. Well, it's, you know, Tuesday night at the RVML. Let's just see what's going on there. I'm curious to know, and if you would be, since we had a small group, I'm curious if anybody willing to say their name and anything that they really want to know, what you really want to take away from this evening. Because I'd like to know if there's any intentions in the room of something you'd like to learn, either personally or more theoretically about reflexology, or questions about your own experiences with it. I'd like to be able to answer that. So is anybody who, off the top, something they want to know?
I want to know if reflexology can clear my brain fog.
Ah, okay. Great question. So clearing brain fog is number one, all right?
Big order.
I'll address that. I just really want to kind of get a sense of what people are. Did you have one?
Is it, can it be used for both like chronic or, you know, acute or?
Chronic or acute conditions, okay. No? Yeah. Hi.
I've had this, I think it's a glass or such in my left foot.
Glass, a piece of glass?
Piece of glass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been there over a month now.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So,
Ouch.
yeah.
Yeah, I bet you're aware of your feet.
So I just want to know if there's like other parts to that because it's in the left foot and
Right,
it's not
right.
getting out.
Totally, that's a great question. I like that. Yeah.
I knew a fellow when I was in high school, he was a contractor, and he had a piece of glass in his hand for a long time, and when they finally took it out, he got poisoning, blood poisoning, and you know, he about lost all his skin. It was just very, very traumatic. So that's something to watch out for. I mean, if he's messing with that, I would say.
Right. So you're talking about when you take a large object out of your foot that's been there.
Either take it out or go to the
There's
doctor.
care
and
that
get
needs
it
to be
done
taken.
right.
Did you catch that? Yeah, okay. Friendly warning. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to just give you kind of a little brief overview about reflexology, kind of what it is, how I see it, and how it is that I do it. And then I think because we're such a small group, I'd really like to do some demonstrations on people. I do have some things that I want to share with you about how the map works. So let's just start there. Reflexology, bottom line, very simple, is an ancient map of precise points that connect to the whole body. And you have maps, you literally have maps all over your body. But the hands and the feet, hieroglyphics go back both in India, Egypt, and China. dating millennia back of hands and feet and charts. You can see them. There's really cool ones that they have. So it's just kind of an intuitive thing that humans figured out a long time ago. And I think that, my story is that humans had a lot more connection particularly to their feet, because they didn't have these contraptions and all this protection around their feet and flat sidewalks and everything, right? So, there's a lot of theory out there that we'd be in a lot better shape if we were barefoot and walking on uneven surfaces, da-da-da-da-da. So, but anyway, reflexology seems to have emerged simultaneously from different cultures. So it's not one culture that, is ascribed to. But it is a very specific map of the foot. Now, probably a lot of you know about iridology. I think I've seen you, actually. I came to an iridology. I love maps, okay? So the hand's a map of your entire body. The foot is a map of the entire body. The iris is, the ear is, the tongue is. And I even have studied in this body of work where this fellow has discovered that the cranium is a map of the entire body. And that's fascinating. And he actually took him a few years to figure out that the hypothalamus in the brain literally acts like a projector. And I have worked with that map as well. And so anyway, I'm fascinated by maps and all the different ways that these unique systems of our bodies are constantly communicating and replicating information, mirroring itself holographically to let us know what's going on. So that kind of gives you just a sense of what reflexology is. Now, how it works or what it looks like, how many of you have worked with reflexology maps before? Anybody have a kind of a sense? Okay, I like to kind of just give the basics, because some of these things, it took me a while to kind of really grok and get in my body. And there's also perspectives that you have to take into consideration, whether, one, you're working on your own hands, which is why I'm having you do charts this way to work on yourself for self-care. Feet, I'm having you do it this way. Although you can work on your own feet, it's a lot easier to work on somebody else's feet and your own hands in general. So if you guys are willing, I'll definitely take you down the road of working on each other's feet, and that just requires your willingness to do that with each other. I do it all the time in workshops. If you want to get that hands-on feet first kind of experience. Or we can just kind of, I can show you foot more up here, and then you can work on your own hands. I can kind of show you where that is. And just full disclosure, I am way more experienced working on feet than hands. I use hands to cross-reference, but because working on somebody's hands is a lot more challenging, you can imagine you have one and the other out here and how to get comfortable. In this feet, again, back zero gravity, got both maps, everything's right up there, right? So that's what I'm most familiar with. So this is where you're going to learn that, yes?
Oh, I just have a question. Sometimes when I'm having a massage, I notice when I'm having my feet done, that there are certain parts that are really tender.
Right.
And I say to the person, is this reflexology? Is this what organ is this?
Right.
And they usually know.
They usually know? That's good.
And so I had never heard about the soul connection. Soul, as it
Right,
well,
right,
that
right, right,
fascinates me.
right. So that's, right. So you want to know more about what
So
that's
about
about.
that, but
Yeah.
also what, to know the organs would be helpful to
Great.
know what isn't quite right. The
Right.
ones that hurt, is that true? Kind of the ones that are very tender?
Right. It can be very helpful. Actually, your feet are talking to you a lot. And once you get familiar, people who do get familiar with working on their feet and hands, this happened with a lot of my clients, their feet would just start talking to them. 1 week they didn't really know they had feet, and then the next week they're like, wow, my foot's really been talking right here. What is this about? What is this saying? And inevitably it was. The feet start waking up, and they start giving you, feedback loops, because they're open and alive. Receptivity has started to be developed. You had a question as well?
Yeah, if the thing you're having the experience of is like pains in the hand, do you stay away from the hand?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'll answer that one first. I'm going to get to all these questions too. I'm going to, I'm carrying it all. She was talking about if you have pains in the hands or the feet, I would imagine, should you stay away from those parts, right?
Huh.
So I'm going to try to answer all of these kind of questions with a general, there's no one answer to any of them, right? So reflexology involves meridians as well as points in the feet, so there's an overlap. So when you have something going on, fuzzy-headedness or pains in the hands or the feet, my job as a reflexologist is to find out what's at the core of that symptom. because not all headaches come from the same place, right? You can have a headache because your hormones are off. You can have a headache because your digestion is off. You can have a headache because your neck is out of adjustment. You know, there's so many different ways that the body is communicating that there's no pat answer for it. But given what the symptom is, I'm going to go, fuzzy headedness. So let's check into digestion, because if you're not digesting, you know, da-da-da-da. And then fuzzy headedness also relates a lot of times to habitual ways of thinking as well. So I would ask you questions more on that mind and energetic body level too, because there literally are personality types that tend to fuzz out more and some that stay more focused. So, you know, that would also be a part of it. You know, if there's any blockages, though, in any of the organs, you're going to want to know that. So to answer the question about pain or not, I'm going to really pay attention when there's a place anywhere in my body, hands or feet or anywhere else, that's really crying out. That's usually a pretty good red flag that something's happening. Now, what's interesting, though, is that when it's in the hands and the feet, you have to decipher, is this a hand or foot problem, or is it a systemic, a body problem, right? And this is where the handy-dandy creator gave us both hands and feet. So as a reflexologist, I'm going to be working on your feet, and maybe there's something that really ouches there, and it'll really both find a really tender spot, like, I wonder what that's about. If we're not sure, if you say, well, is it a foot injury, or is it, you know, something else, I'll go up and I'll cross-reference with the hand. If I can find that same knot or puffiness, tenderness in your hand that I can in your foot, guess what? We've got a matchup here, and chances are pretty high that it's, you know, it's a body thing. That part of the body is talking, not just the hands or the foot. So this is where reflexology can come. There's kind of two different ways to use it, I guess at least two, but I'll speak of two. One is if you have a foot injury, right? So if something's happened to the foot, reflexology can be really good for rebalancing the foot. And again, just to say, we all know this place that when we've twisted an ankle or, you know, got some foot injury, we start compensating for it. The body starts compensating. So the quicker that we can get that foot back into good working order and in alignment, then the whole body can start to adjust around that. Now, when I'm using that example of a sprained ankle is a great example because the ankle in general, and I'll show you this in a minute, is related to the whole hip pelvic area. So 90% of the time when people are spraining their ankle, it's because they have a weakness going on in here, that this has gotten tired out and the ankle goes too. So, you know, so weak ankles, which I have them, weak ankles and having weaker hip flexors go hand in hand. Again, you can tell a lot by a person's foot. You can tell the person who has solid, strong, short muscle, spindle fiber, strong psoas, strong spine by their foot. You can tell the person who has more, I'm pointing to me now, ligamentous, you know, weaker psoas, weaker hip flexor by how their feet and their posture are in their feet. So, you know, given that, then you can start giving them exercises and things to work on that. So reflexology works really well in terms of healing hands and foot stuff, and it also works really well for systemic body things working through the hands and feet, i.e. internal organs or anything else. So does that kind of answer that? So I am going to give you some pieces of the digestion and organs tonight, so you can definitely get that. And I just want to say that I also have charts that my teacher created in these past few years on sale back there for $10. So if you really get inspired tonight, there's really nice drawn out maps that you can take home and play with. We're just going to do a very rudimentary kind of going over, because it's a lot of information. It takes years literally to really get reflexology at every level. So let everything wash over you, and the few little things that drop in and stay great. All right? So here's your feet. You're looking down at your feet now. Do you have a question before I go on?
I just wanted to say I don't want to tell you anything. I want you to
Oh, right.
my feet, because anything that I might say might influence.
Right. So this is a
what you
funny
find.
thing. It's kind of like that place of like, you know, reflexologist is psychic reader, right, or whatever. And there's that part to my work where I do get impressions in the feet. But what I always tell my clients, and I'm fine, I have people come in and sit down, and I definitely can tell things by looking and touching people's feet. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But there's a part where you can miss out because a lot of times if there's something going on, a particular system that you know you're having trouble with, then I can go in with my razor eye kind
I
of
could tell you some
do that.
later, but
Yeah.
initial impression, I want you to.
Right. Right.
Look at
throw
things-
down that gauntlet,
look-
Stephen.
Look at
All
things
right,
with a
all
clean
right.
slate.
Right, okay. I hear you, I
It's
hear
like
you.
going to a psychic and not telling
Right,
her anything
right.
first.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to see
It's
what you
kind
can
of funny,
find
you know,
out
I-
just by looking at my feet.
Right, you can learn a lot, actually.
And then we can discuss things.
And it is a very personal thing, I want to say. A lot of times I want to say, I hold back from saying everything that I see when I do touch people's feet, because it can freak people out a little bit too, or people do think that there's the psychic part of my work, I'll say that, and then there's just what your feet. I can tell from looking at your feet too, you know what I mean? And it's like, and there's a flow that goes back and forth with that, so. But anyway, let's get started so you guys get a sense of what the map looks like, and then I'm going to actually work on some people, okay? So this is us looking down at our ankles and feet. And this is where you're going to find out why I'm in the healing arts and not the visual arts. It took me many times just to get these very poor drawings you're about to see tonight. Okay, but I just want to give you a sense of how it translates as you're looking at it, because whether it's your hands or your feet, you're looking at the whole body, starting with, so this up here is the head down to the neck, right? So the big toe is the head. This is also, by the way, all this over here is also head nerves, and in fact you have your sinuses, everything in the head is here, your sinuses are here, your teeth are all in here, and all of your neck nerve endings all run through the toes. So the toes, fingers and toes are all about head issues. Head stuff going on and nerve stuff going on. But your head itself here, and you have your pineal gland, and we'll talk more about that, but going down into the neck. So right at the first joint right here is basically the jaw. Not basically, it is the jaw in the foot. And then right where the toe goes in, starts, the phalange, the second phalange right there, that is your neck. And so your spine goes down the inner part of this, and I'll show you a picture of that too from the side, all the way down. So through here, you're going to have your breasts and across the chest, and I won't talk about this so much, and the lungs. So the breast and the lungs are all through here, and your internal organs are all going to be. You're looking at it. Kind of bird's eye here, but this is all the internal organs area. And then when you get to the ankle area, this is where your hips are. So you have the body coming kind of down and then out into the hips, right? And then I don't even have this on here, but I actually work up to the mid-calf, because your knee and your foot points, you actually have knee and foot points that go up the back of your leg a little bit, all right? So that's basically what you're looking at whenever you're looking at the feet and everything that's in there.
What's the difference between left and right? Is there a big difference?
So left and right correlate with left and right sides of the body. It's pretty straightforward that way, yeah. And the only time you cross over is like you would in the brain. I'll work the right side of the brain for the left side of the body if I'm working more on a neurological level, because you can actually work on the brain to the foot too, which is a little bit more intermediate version. But that makes sense to everybody looking at it. So you're looking at it head down. Now look at these feet. These are so silly looking. Okay, but first let me start here. So I just drew this out so you guys could get a sense when you're looking at a side angle view. It's just one foot, obviously. So again, your head, and this is your whole spine going down into your sacrum, right? So again, starting after the first juncture in the toe, you have...
Spine is on the inside.
Right. It's on the inside edge, that inside edge of the foot. So you have your 7 cervicals, and then you have your thoracic spine, the 12 thoracic spine, and then the 5 or 6, if you're so lucky. Some people have 6 lumbars, and then into the coccyx. And then this area through here in that inner heel is the sacrum. And right in that indentation spot on the inner heel is where the prostate gland is, or the uterus on a woman. And then I just have this marked out right here because this is where the fallopian tubes or the inguinal canal is as well, okay? So when you're working people with a lot of tight hip issues, or women who have a lot of premenstrual issues and a lot of tissue buildup that happens in their cycle, you're going to work those areas. It can be very tender areas for both men and women, the whole hip pelvis area. And on the other side, the outside, I didn't draw the outside, but on the outside of the foot, kind of correlating to this uterus and prostate is where the ovaries and testes are too. And you can actually feel that. And I welcome you too on your own feet right now. It's easier, much easier on the foot than it is on the hand, to feel where that indentation is and feel on the outside of the heel. And this is where it comes in, you can actually feel, women's ovaries that have had a lot of action. You can feel, women who have larger ovaries or have had more tissue buildup. I mean, it's a jungle in there, what goes on every month, I don't know if you've ever seen it on those little laparoscopic cameras where these, it builds up, the cyst builds up and breaks away, and there's just, it's pretty gnarly what goes on in women's cycle. And you can tell too, men's testes too, what's going on there. So can everybody kind of feel that? On the outside, you should feel like a lifted, rounded, kind of soft, puffy, and sometimes kind of tender area on the outside. And then on the
Is that
inside,
just below what is called the Achilles?
and
tendon?
so it's actually, so you're going to be, so you see the inside of the heel? So if you find that first on the inside, right where it indents, there's like a little dip.
Mhm.
That is where, I don't know if you're quite
Right
on
there
it.
before the,
It's actually right there.
Right
Right.
here?
Yeah, ouch, she said.
So
So-
what if you don't have?
so not on this.
But if you don't have any, you have one. I
Not,
guarantee
not
you.
on this
No.
side, but on the opposite side is what you're.
But then on the opposite side, if you went right through to the opposite side, and everybody, is a little bit different. It's just kind of like where everybody's ovaries and testes are is always kind of moving around. It's a dynamic process. There's no, so I'm going to give you a map. I should say this, a general map. But everybody's map is a little different. Everybody's gallbladder's shaped differently in a different place. Everybody's ovaries and testes kind of move around and change shape.
No, I mean, if you've had an organ removed, then
You still have the energetic organ there, though. But you will feel a lot of times scar tissue. There'll be scar tissue that will be apparent.
Hey, Joy, could it doesn't work here, it's only hands-on, so could you tell me, could you help me identify this point?
If you're willing to come up,
Sure.
I'll help you. You have to take off your socks, though.
Does it matter which foot?
No, it doesn't. Okay, so just for everybody, I'm going to have you lean back in a chair. All the way, all the way, all the way. Those of you who get the chance to get up into the divine chair, you're going to find out how lovely it is. I usually use that underneath people's legs, but I just want to give you all a sense. So I'm going to have to turn you just a little bit, okay?
Just sleep.
For this one, I'm going to turn you a little bit. So everybody can kind of sort of see that below the ankle bone and then down towards the heel. That's right, and find yours. Yours actually sticks out right there. Feel that? So it's beneath, I'm going to encourage you all to get where you can see too. It really does help. And then right on the opposite side, try to relax your foot a little bit too for me. Can you relax your leg? There you go. And so the testes is right there. Right there. Can you feel that? Indeed. Relax. Thank you. That's the other thing I find with people too. We don't even realize how much tension that we're holding in our body. Like when I talk about how much you can learn people, just touching somebody, they're receptive, or there's tension there, or certain parts that constantly come up. I want to say that I've had numerous people that have come in with pain. You can stay there for a minute if you want. That's fine. Who've come in with pain in their bodies and or in their hands or wrists. I've had clients who thought for sure they had carpal tunnel syndrome, and it really was cysts going on in their reproductive. Now it doesn't happen all the time, but man, is it worth checking out, because you really want to like I had this one client I'm thinking of who's now just had a baby. I'm happy to report, but she was on the pill for ages and ages, and she'd go through her cycles, and it just got really clear. It was like she'd go through certain parts of her cycle, and this thing would just come up. She had this huge cyst. And of course, the doctors wanted to operate and ganglion cyst and da-da-da. But I tell you, after she went off the pill and she got married and decided to have a baby, all that started just clearing itself up. So the other biggie that I see with people is around the thyroid. So the thyroid, anybody here have thyroid issues? Well, you I know. But I'd be curious to see your feet. Because is it hypo? And has it been for a long time?
too little?
I'm sorry?
The too little, is that hypo?
Hypo, right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Long time?
I've been treated for it and I go on and off.
You go on and off. Do you have bunions?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Because what I find in about 80%, not everybody with thyroid is going to have it, but about 80 to 85% of people who have bunions, it's really a thyroid issue. And a classic example for me is a client who I work with now who, bless her heart, as a child had bunions at age 5 and had her feet, they operated on her feet because of her bunions. And she had, she had no thyroid action going on. She still doesn't, But I mean, that's like a perfect example, like classic of where, allopathic medicine came in and says, fix the symptom. Got to fix the symptom. So I just really, if nothing else, if you walk away tonight with a sense of like, man, if something's going on my foot, let me get it checked out first, by reflexologists before I go down the path of surgery or something else. That would be great. Okay. So, we're going to, this is not a platypus, this is the bottom of your feet. All right, so now I'm the reflexologist looking at your foot. And I want to give you actually something, first of all, that you can kind of take home with you, okay? So we're going to start a little bit on the hand, and then I'm going to translate some stuff to the feet. Right now, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm actually getting over a pretty bad case of a flu with a cold, head plugged up, the whole thing. Anybody had that recently? Great. Do you still have stuff going on? Can you come up for a second?
Yeah, will you stay right there?
Yeah. You said right there. That's so cute. So, do you have any ear problems going on?
No.
Oh, darn.
But my roommate had them really bad, but I got on Zoom to Indonesia. And
Okay, so you don't have any ear things going on. Okay, because what I was going to show you all, so in the hand here, sinus points are right across, right below the fingertips. And when you're working the sinuses, you're working the outside of the head to the inside of the head, right? So you're going to work the pinky first, keep your hand relaxed. And my teacher always used to say, pretend like you're squeezing the last drops out of a toothpaste tube. So you start from the outside. You're working both sides of the finger, by the way, just beneath the nail bed. And you work it towards the thumb. So we're working that away, right, towards the center. So I'm going to go ahead and press this and move this way. And I do it 3 to 5 times and just kind of work there. And sometimes you'll hit little points that are going to be more tender on the recipient than others. And if you're not sure, they are. They usually know. I don't feel anything too bad with you right now.
Just above the joint?
Just below the nail bed, right, and above the joint, yeah. A little bit of something in there, not bad. Now, here's the tricky part. When you get to the thumb, you go to the outside, or I guess it would be the inside of the thumb, right? And you work towards the index finger, and then down the thumb, which is the throat. So you really I don't really feel a lot going on. You're doing a good job taking care of yourself. I would be a much better example of this, actually, because I can feel all this in my hands right now. So you work down the throat. Now, somebody who has a sore throat or sore glands, you'd be a good one for that. I pass this on to my friend back there. The thumb going down, you're going to feel little swollen areas, because that's the glands in the throat. And this is the cool thing about reflexology, that reflexology, the hands and the feet, almost all the time, if you pay attention, are going to tell you what's going on with the body long before the symptoms occur. It totally shocks and surprises me, and it does it to me, and I still let it, I still, healer, heal thyself, I ignore the symptoms sometimes because my hands or feet, like, for instance, I started getting my fingers, so your ear points are, your ears are the second 2 fingers. That's all I can do for you right now, because you actually feel pretty good in there. Your eyes are the first 2 fingers in this area, and your ears are here. Okay, and there's the eustachian tube that goes across into the inner ear. But earaches show up in the ring finger as a tension or a tightness. And this happened to me where about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, my fingers started just talking. What happens to me is all of a sudden I'll find myself doing something. And, my hands will be talking to me, or my foot will. And I don't know why the hand talks more sometimes and the foot talks more with other things, but it's just the way it is. So anyway, it started telling me, a while back that there was something going on with my ear. But I'm like, hey, I feel fine. Nothing's going on with my ear. Well, I'm talking to you right now with a whole huge mucus-filled ear that's been a part of this flu thing that I had on. So, or my bronchioles, I've had the experience of where in the middle of the night, the bronchioles on my foot will like literally wake me up, and I'm like, what's going on? There's nothing going on with my lung. And 2 weeks later, I'm like, something's happening. So I want to know, you just talked about the organs, right? Does everybody want to learn about organs tonight? Does that sound like a good place to start? So everybody got the sinus piece first. So with sinus stuff, it's a great one to know, working down, and then when you get here, over and then down the throat, right? So just like the foot, it's much harder to do on the hand, I think, but the spine, again, is here. Starting here, you have the neck. Nice to work on the neck through the thumbs. See how nice long piece you get to work on the toe? It's shorter than it is in the thumb. So when I'm working on people's necks sometimes, or my own neck, I love to get in. Your occiput is back here, the top of the neck, and then down to C7 is here. So that's a great place to work. But then you go into the thoracic.
Where does C7 come?
C7 is where the joint is.
At the knuckle?
And C7 is where the ball, where it sticks out on the foot, right here. Right? That's where the C7 is. Okay, yeah, thanks. That's great.
C7 right there.
Yeah, right at that first joint, yeah. The meaty joint right there. Yeah, that's going to be C7. Okay. Okay, so that's a good one to know about. Also, if you're fighting off, I'm going to start the internal organs with the spleen, since we're working kind of on immune system. The other thing that really lights up, and again, it did on me, and I played with it and played around with it, but I ignored, I think, the symptoms well, is on the left hand or the left foot, about where it is in your body, is you're going to have your spleen. Now, this area generally doesn't hold much tension at all for people, except if their blood, their spleen's having to work hard to create new blood. And it's doing that either for women right before they bleed or when you're fighting off an infection. So like I can feel mine right now, and it's not really sore puffy, but it's kind of tight and knotted up a little bit. It's like, something's been going on in there. Now I worked on it about 3 or 4 days ago, and it was puffy and sore. So I wish I had some good sickies in here so we could really, somebody's fighting off. Anybody find anything in their spleen area? So it's like, right in that area, right here, on the left hand, right? You feel that on you?
Intense.
And you'll feel both top and bottom.
I'm sure it's more on the top.
Yeah, sometimes it's more top and sometimes it's more bottom, but you on the spleen, you work both sides of it.
I don't get sick very often, and I'm getting over a head cold and a
Are
sore
you?
throat.
Right.
Flu,
So your spleen is doing a great job. I mean, this is the part where we can just really, acknowledge the body. Hey, it's doing its job. It's doing really good work. So the other place that you might want to think about working is right between the webbing of these fingers, a little bit closer to the middle finger. That's where the thymus gland is. And again, if your body is working on infection, you're going to feel a little bit of a tenderness and a hardness right in there. And sometimes it's a little bit more on one side than the other. Like on mine, I can feel it more on the right than I can on the left for some reason right there.
If I tend to be left-handed, does that have anything to do with
No, that wouldn't have anything to do with your thymus or your spleen at all, no.
Thymus
No.
is right there between the index and the
Yeah,
middle
so
finger?
on the foot, let me just show you
These
here.
are all on your chart, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they are on the chart that you can buy. The thymus gland it's on both sides, and it's about right there. Just like the thyroid, I'm going through the thyroid here is in this area. It's really interesting. Everybody's maps are a little bit different too, just to say. Like I was taught to really work in smaller areas with the thyroid, and other maps have this thyroid area that looks like, the thyroid that ate New York. I'm like, God, nobody's thyroid's that big. And you're going to find people's liver, like, so we have the spleen on the left, right? Let's go to the liver. Liver's on the right, exactly. And so the liver, the way I work on it, comes up and over like that. Now you'll see it on some maps where it actually crosses over the midline into the left foot. What the heck? Go there if you want to. But I find that this is where most of the action happens with the liver. So when I'm working the liver, I'm showing you guys a lot of hands here, is I really work, this side though. I start about right here, and I work up, and I really work the outside as well as the inside edge, and then up and over. And what you'll find again, so what you're looking for when you're touching yourself or someone else, and it's easier with your own body because you'll get familiar with what you're touching, is the quality. So is there a tightness? Is there a tenderness? Is there a puffiness? Things that we look for in reflexology is the skin quality too. Is it calloused? And this is a little bit more of where the SOUL part comes in, the energetic part. When people have heavy-duty calluses in certain parts of their feet or their hands, and a lot of times they'll show up on both, it's an indicator. It's an indicator that there's been a chronic, long-term aggravation or condition there. Now, as a reflexologist, again, my job is to find out, is it primarily physical or is it emotional too? Because a lot of times there's just energetic holding patterns that people have, in their being. I've seen remarkable things. Like I have a client right now who came in and had calluses, big calluses on lung points in her feet, and ridge around her heart, the pericardium area, and the jaw. And she's really clear that she's working on some big transformational personal issues and speaking her truth and all of that. Now, I work on that a little bit, but we've been working on other stuff, and I would just notice dramatic differences in those built-up areas as she's resolving these issues in her life. So it's been really cool just to see those corollaries, happen. Or you have people who come in, like, the waitress who smokes all the time. It's like, oh, you're a smoker, because you can see it. The lungs are in this whole area too, right through here. The pads of the foot, that whole area, the pads of the foot.
Metatarsal?
Right through there is all lung. So when people, smoke a lot, you can really tell there's either puffiness going on, like the tissues are always kind of aggravated, or there's calloused areas. And people think, oh, calluses, it's my shoes,
How do you know? that
Right.
it isn't?
Well, it's a good question.
Like right,
Right.
I think that's the shoe. I don't know.
Right. So part of it is, there's certainly some things that are going to be aggravated by environment, but we kind of go in on deeper levels and see, and sometimes it's not. I mean, when I'm working on people, in the wintertime especially, where their feet are all nice and cozy and aren't rubbing up, and the outside, then, those things shouldn't be coming up like that. So I'm looking for those signals. And most people, not most people, a lot of people have jaw issues. In fact, how many people here feel like they have jaw issues? If you look at your toes,
Clenched teeth.
bruxing, jaw clenching, that first juncture right here in the hands or the feet or both. And I don't know why sometimes it presents more on one foot than the hand, and I'm not quite sure why that is. But you'll have like a bigger area through here, much bigger area. In fact, I had a fellow come in recently who on his feet, one joint on one foot, smooth as a baby. The other one was all built up and, hardened and widened. And I went, wow, what's going on in your jaw on this side? Now, what was happening with him is that for weeks he'd had a tooth problem on the side that was soft as a baby. He hadn't been chewing on that side at all. The other side had been completely overcompensating. I thought that was fascinating. It was the first time I got to see that one, where one was like so obviously stressed and the other one was, underused.
Can I ask you a quick,
Yeah.
on that thing up there, back to your organs?
Yeah.
When you have the lungs running over, for example.
Right, there's overlap.
The overlap with
Mhm.
the liver.
Yep.
How do you distinguish?
Yeah. How do we do it in here? How do we figure this out? Yeah, it's just like the body. There's all this overlapping. Isn't it amazing how much stuff? And when I think about, 25 feet of intestine or 50, I don't know, it's like all this stuff in here. I'm like, wow, it's a trip what happens inside these organs. So it's the same on the feet. So yeah, part of what I'm working is there are areas that are pretty obvious and other areas that are overlapping areas. So we're kind of always kind of feeling into it and, asking a little bit. But in general, and a lot of it's intention too. Like when I'm going in, I go through really systematically when I'm working on the body. I go through the muscular-skeletal, I'll go through the lymphatic, I'll go through the endocrine system, which I haven't even talked about, which is a huge piece of my work. I'll go through all the muscular-skeletal stuff, and then I'll go through the digestion and all the internal organs and the lungs and the bronchia, the sinuses, ears, nose, throat stuff. So that I'm really putting my attention on specific parts whenever I do it. It gets a little trickier. People go, it hurts right here. And then it's my job. Sometimes it's really obvious, and other times I have to, I have to investigate a little bit more. Is it this system or is it that system, or that type of thing.
Are there different depths that those are functioning in? Like lung over liver, for example, where there's an overlap. Is there a different...
There's a different quality.
There's a different quality.
There's a different quality, right, to your lungs, and how I would work those, how I kind of massage or work the lungs than when I work on the liver. And when I'm working on the liver, I'm really working on getting the energy up and over and functioning, I kind of think of it as helping the liver go from phase 1 to phase 2 and how it does in its own.
But distinguishing something, are you picking up like a vibrational difference between lung and liver when the areas are overlapping, or...
I don't know if it's as distinct as I'm hearing your question,
Okay.
but there is quality differences, definitely. There is. I mean, there is a vibrational difference. And again, that's the part where when I get quiet and I go in, I'm tuning in to different levels of the body, and it's not just a rudimentary, piece of going through the motions. So anyway, so we have the liver here. Okay, but let's back up a little bit here. I know I'm kind of going all over the map, right? And please feel free to just I want you to get all your questions answered tonight. So we have the head, right? We're looking at the back right now, but we know that this is the head, and we've talked about how the throat goes down, same as it would on the front of the toe, right? It would be the throat going down. And then we have, this is the esophagus, right? So the esophagus comes down. And then you're going to have, right side, you're going to have the stomach. So the stomach's on both sides. Usually they have it, a little bit bigger on the right side. But, like I said, whatever. So you can kind of find it on yourself. And how many people want me to show this to you on somebody's feet? Would that be easier? But what it's going to require is that you guys get up so you can see. And I'll just take a few minutes showing you where you can find it. Does that appeal to people? Sure. Such a quiet group. What do you want?
You could draw on my feet if you want.
I could draw on your feet. This is the tricky part, because unless you're working on yourself or whatever, and I'm not going to show you the stomach piece as much through the hand, just because it's trickier, quite frankly. It's so much clearer in the feet than it is in the hands. So, you want to come up here?
Can you help digest?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, reflexology can definitely help digestion. I'm here to tell you. So can I tell you a digestion story real fast? So I have a dear friend of mine, always been healthy as a horse until she acquired a fistula around her thoracic part of her spine. And long story short, was quadriplegic for a while, is now on a walker and doing okay, but I mean, it totally radically changed her life, major operation. And because, everything got deadened from here down and she was in a wheelchair for a long time, she stopped pooping. And so I came in and worked on her. And that's a nice thing about reflexology. These are my equipment. This is all I need, when I go in. I mean, I do use therapeutic grade essential oils and blah, 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 in the whole full service station. But this is really all I need. So I could work on her in the hospital, and I was with her at home. And man, I went in one day, and it was just like, oh, baby, you have not pooped for a while. She's like, yeah, it's been like 10 days, 10 or 11 days, right? And so I just went after her and, did it. And she cursed me. She was like, later on, she was like, I felt that hurt because she was starting to get all of her nerve stuff back. But she pooped. She usually only pooped every other day in her usual life. She pooped 4 times after I left that day. So it became a joke, It's like, where are those poop points? Tell Joy to come press on the poop points.
What about the reverse?
I mean, what loose bowels, right? Well, that's a great question. Yeah, so it's all about balance, isn't it? So, one of my life practices is something that's called Brima, and I don't know how many of you have heard about it at all. Oh, great, yeah. Have you experienced it? No? Well, it's got a big body work component where it's very body-centered in terms of its practice and There's partner body work. In fact, I'm teaching a workshop this weekend in May 17th, two weekends this month, because I just love sharing with people. And we also work with these universal life principles that are all about self-understanding and cultivating presence in our life. But I just want to share with you that the perspective that I come from Brima, is that we say in Brima, true health is being in harmony with existence. So when I touch somebody's feet, my goal is to not find out what's wrong and to fix them. My goal is to be present with them, to be receptive and curious, to celebrate the life that's already there, and to support the innate intelligence that's already here to come back into deeper harmony with life. And so people just, the results that I hear from people immediately is just feeling more relaxed, more balanced, more grounded, and that in itself, if that's all you get, that's great. Other people come out, pain-free, their back feels better. A lot of people have insights in my chair too, because I do, offer a space of SOUL, soul inquiry. So people come in with that, and whatever your intention is, truly manifests. So the sessions are very multi-leveled in that regard. So just to say, when you talk about the other way, when you have loose bowels, right, I'm going to deal with somebody with diarrhea a little bit differently than I would somebody with constipation. I'm not going to be wailing on the same points. I'm going to be going further up the GI tract and figuring out why something's going on with the stomach, spleen, pancreas, small intestine, that when it gets to the large intestine, baby, it's not happening. All the water is rushing there. Why is that? Right? So there's an imbalance going on. So I'm going to take that information and then start letting the body show me. I have all this information, but it does me no good unless I can interface with your body and just listen to it. You're a small person. The chair loves to move on small people. So I was just going to show you all that, so we have the throat down the toe, and so the esophagus moves down, and then when you're right under there, under the ball of the foot, that's basically where the stomach is. Yeah? So, and what I'm always doing is I'm moving the organs, supporting them in their natural pattern. So, when you think about when we take something down into our stomach, it's here, and then it starts moving up, and it moves into the duodenum. Everybody know what that is? That connector to the small intestine, but there's all of the gallbladder and the liver have their input into digestion, as well as the pancreas in these ducts over here. We don't have to get too technical, but all these ducts kind of meet together, and that's where they do their magic. And then it goes into the small intestine, and our body's able to take up all the nutrition, ideally, from the food. And then after it's completed that, it dumps it. Ileocecal valve, people know that one, right? It dumps it in. That's the valve in between small intestine and large. And then the large intestine, gets rid of the compost, right? And it goes out again, right? Right? It is. It's all good. So when you're doing this, finding that, like I said, an easy way to do it is to kind of come down between those two, and then you're in the stomach area.
You do both at once.
When I'm working, I don't usually work this way. I'm working a little backwards for myself right here. But I'm going to be working it over to the right. Right? You can imagine I'm just kind of giving the stomach a little bit of a massage and working it over until I get over into that juncture, this juncture through here, which a lot of people will have all kinds of stuff going on here because the gallbladder, the liver, those ducts, everything is kind of happens over here. So the gallbladder is in between, and you can find this on your hand as well, in between, on the right hand, sorry, the small and index finger, and you slide it down just a short ways. Remember the liver's back here, right? We talked about that already. So the gallbladder and the liver are pretty well matched up here. But you're going to find the gallbladder on the top of the hand, and it'll be just a small, lifted, firm area. Some people it's pretty lumpy, other people's it's pretty small. If you've had a lot of fatty food in the past couple days, it'll probably be easier for me to find if you've had a nice clean, low-fat kind of diet, clean diet. But there's mine right there, I can find it. Sometimes you have to feel around just a little bit, but it's approximately right there, and it'll stick up a little bit. There'll be like a little bit of a head there. So I'm going to find yours on you. How are we doing on time, Will?
Do you wanna take a break, or you wanna continue?
Oh,
going?
I'll just keep going. Once I get going, how are you guys doing? Yeah. So I'm going to slide down here. Give me a second.
Don't I have a gallbladder?
Sometimes it takes a minute. Oh my God, the case of the missing gallbladder.
gone.
Wow. Did anybody notice why I wouldn't find the gallbladder? I was on the left foot, people, okay? That was a test, really. It was. It wasn't just my
That's
own.
the right foot.
Oh, it is the right foot. You're right. God, I'm all backwards now.
Double trick question.
Yeah, double trick. Oh, there it is. There. So a lot of times when I have a little bit of a challenge finding the gallbladder, I go to the liver on this side because they're related. And if I kind of work the liver a little bit, the gallbladder will end up, kind of popping up and letting itself be known.
Maybe she had gallbladder surgery.
Could be. But you would still have an energetic signature. That's the thing that's true. It is harder to find your gallbladder, actually, I have to say. It's not as obvious as some people's are.
Is that a pretty bony foot, I think?
Not so bony. And everybody's gallbladder is very different, too. Some people's is further down, like yours is a little bit lower than most.
What does the gallbladder do?
Gallbladder creates bile that helps break down the fats in the body. It's a good question. But it's right there. Can you feel that a little bit? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hers is just a little bit lower down than I'm used to finding it.
That hurt.
Yeah. She's got some liver puffiness. Most people, when I work on their liver,
Yeah, that.
Yeah, so you could use some liver work for sure. You have bony feet, but there's also puffiness. And that puffiness, part of it is in that liver there.
Does that just mean toxin?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say toxins, that's too, arbitrary. I don't, but the liver could use some support, There's something going on in there. Feel that right through there. So if I was working on her, we'd spend a little bit of time on her liver, just help and push through whatever's going on in there. So did everybody get a sense of that? Anybody want help finding gallbladder, liver, something on themselves? You got it?
I'd like to find my liver.
Your liver? I'll show you. So it starts about right here and works up right through here. Feel too bad. You got a little bit of something right there, but it's not too bad. I find most people's livers, have some challenge, unless they're really, really clean eating. I had this great experience of when I went down to Baja. There's this fellow I met shortly after crossing the border. Now he had had a major accident where he fell and lost the use of his leg. I mean, completely, so many broken bones, et cetera, and he wasn't supposed to walk again. And he decided he was going to detox his way back to health. I mean, he had made a radical life change. Huge sweats and detoxes and, all this stuff for months and months and months. Well, I had the pleasure of working on him. Now, this guy was pushing 60. And I worked on him as he crossed the border. He was just moving down to Baja. I mean, he gave up his whole job, everything in the States. So anyway, I found your liver there. How's that feel? He's like, don't stop. Keep working it. I just get to talking. Anybody else had trouble finding anything? You got it. So anyway, I worked on this man's feet, like I said, who was almost 60, and his digestion was like that of a child. I mean, it was so receptive and clear and function. It was like, I was like, wow, this is what, we could feel like if we were that clean. And the interesting part of the story is that he went on this huge detox fasting, sweat. I mean, he did on every level.
A liver cleanse, or more.
Everything, more.
Yeah.
He worked on every organ, internal organ, to heal himself. And so I worked on him again 2 months later, after he'd been in Baja with his friends, working in this major theater production where he was up all night, drinking, partying, da-da-da-da. The show closed when I finally saw him, And I said, hey, let me work on your feet. He was exhausted. I touched his feet, and I'm like, whoa, dude, you've been having a good time. His liver, everything, you could tell he was kind of like a little sheepish, you know, like, yeah, because it was really remarkable to see in a 2-month period, you know, that his body's, I mean, he was okay, but he was like most of us are, you know, it was like we have these spots and these puffiness and these tight areas and everything else.
That's an amazing confirmation. I mean, of course it's
It
true. but
is.
What a great confirmation.
It was both of them were, like I said, I'm always fascinated by what I learn when I work on people. So does that give you a sense of where it is?
Yes, thank
So
you.
we were talking about the lungs and stuff. So yeah, so the lungs are right here too. But the liver goes up underneath the lungs, right? So again, when I'm working intentionally, I'm kind of going up, and I'm intentionally going up under the lungs whenever I'm working on somebody that way.
So generally speaking, the lines in your hand, according to palmistry, are this is your head line, this
Right.
is your heart line, and this is your life line.
Yeah, I don't do that.
But I mean, generally speaking, they delineate the geography of your hand.
What is it? I don't know what your question is.
Generally speaking, in
That's
palmistry,
your gallbladder right there.
they call this top
Feel that?
line in your hand
Uh-huh.
the head line, the middle one, the heart line, and the bottom one,
Are
your
you
life
wondering
line.
if there's a connection?
So it's kind of,
The top is the head.
it delineates the
Oh, because it goes
geographic
head,
section.
heart, and
life
life.
line.
I do not know
I don't know
what
what
you
that
speak.
means.
I don't either. I think it's great. I mean,
But
I love
you're
all
moving
maps.
Basically,
I'm fascinated.
you're moving from your head to your
Moving
trunk.
down. You're saying that the map has
Yeah.
some correlation to that. Yeah.
Will we get to the heart?
Sure. Okay. So let's keep going here. So we have the liver, right? We have the esophagus, and we have the stomach. Now we worked the stomach over into the gallbladder area and these ducts, right? Big piece of a lot of people's digestive and hormonal misery has to do with the pancreas, I find. A lot of imbalances. Anybody here have blood sugar issues? He says, great. Well, this is a nice one. This is one of my favorite points to show people, particularly. So this is my holiday special point. You know, after we've eaten all the turkey and da-da-da-da-da, but anytime. So in your hands, right at that second joint here, down in the thumb, and just in a little bit. Just go slightly up and in, da-da-da-da, and his tongue stuck out. He's like, yeah, I have issues. Right there. Now, it's on both sides. Now, in reflexology, and we kind of correlate the left-hand side of the pancreas more to processing of fats and proteins, and the right-hand side with insulin, sugar stuff. And the right side could be, insulin can be from, you know, caffeine, alcohol, carbohydrate, sugar, anything at all that kind of
Is that
sets
about
it up. That's about it. And you'll find it because it'll be tender. And so what you want to do is work that just towards the center here, just in towards the center, again, pressing down. So you found a tender point too? Yeah. And I tell you, that's a great one to know. Again, when you're eating clean or you're off sugar, or even before you eat a meal, feel it, check it out. And then after you eat it, feel it and check it out. You can feel if it's really taxed. And a lot of people I find have pancreatic issues in our culture. So much caffeine, so much sugar, so much wacky diet stuff. Our pancreas, which is, you know, creates the enzymes and is also a big player in the hormones. All the chemicals, you know, it's involved in chemical production in the body, from digestion to hormones. So that's a big player. So, you know, play with that one. I work with that one a lot with people. So you have on the left side, you're going to have, draw this on your map too, your kind of fats, proteins, and on the right side is more sugar, insulin issues, glucagon stuff. Okay, so in the foot, for what this is worth with all of you, it's approximately right here. Now I have my special ways of finding this on the body, which I can show you if you want in the foot. But since you guys seem to find, it's a pretty easy one to find in the hand, luckily. So that's a good one to support yourself with. And then after I do that, so now we've gotten the enzymes and the juices all going, and all the ducts are hopefully flowing, and then we go into the small intestine, right? So, the small intestine, as we know, this isn't working very well, sorry, goes through this part of the body, right? Both sides. So what I do is I love doing this, receiving this and giving this on people. Anybody want to come up for a quick volunteer just to show you? You got to get in this chair, don't you?
Yeah, I can try it out.
Okay, come on in. Come on up, Steve.
Barefoot long enough.
My feet are getting
You're what?
cold. Feet are getting cold.
Your feet are getting cold? Okay, and push back all the way. And they talk about that too, heat in the feet. A lot of times, I've had people who have real big perspiration issues through the feet, and we've been able to kind of figure out what that's about, because that's an inflammation. The body's given off, the body's trying to release. And cold feet too
Yeah,
is
I have
about
clammy
clammy feet, right? So. Well, I don't diagnose, and I don't like to give you pat answers because we're all so unique. But usually there's some kind of contraction going on when there's cold, right? Vessels aren't dilating, and a lot of times they talk about solar plexus contraction. Like, have anybody experienced this? This happens to me sometimes where I can't get to sleep because my feet are so cold. Oh, right?
What time though? Does that occur to you at a particular time?
No, it can occur at any time, and it can happen during naps and everything. And my story about that is that I'm contracted and my solar plexus is contracted, and sometimes it takes hours. Now, if you're really smart, what will we do? Get up and soak your feet, man. Relax, open up. Right. That is like that, and putting lavender essential. Exactly. It's like it's so simple, things we could do. But anyway, I don't know. I do that to myself often. And I find it's when I'm stressed. The more stressed I am, the more cold my feet are. And the clamminess usually, has to do with some stagnation that's going on in the body somewhere.
Well, you're right at that point. I feel it on like shoes, and I didn't know whether it was the quality of the shoes, but it's like a burning sensation between the foot and the shoe.
Oh, when no socks or with socks?
No, with socks. With socks.
A burning.
And I thought maybe it was. It was the Chinese shoes or something like that.
Gosh,
rubber
I don't know.
or something.
Yeah,
But
it could be.
It's very hot.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
know. That there's no pat answer for that. That's interesting, and I would be curious to know if it is a material thing or
Yeah.
like what's the pattern? Like, what is it? The same shoes, or is it after you eat something, or you know what I mean? Like there would be different things.
That's it.
Okay, so this one's a hard one to do on yourself, but your small intestine is going to be through here. You start on the right side when I'm doing this, but I think this feels really good. It's one of my favorite moves, is you hold the foot with the thumb on the bottom, and then you just walk firmly down the foot. And I do this numerous times just to kind of support. And then I go to the left side. Now, I don't know quite why this is, but food sensitivity issues will tend to show up more on the left side of the foot. I can feel it on both sides, but I can feel it even more on the left side. And you got a little bit of something going on in there. Can you feel that right through there? Mm-hmm. So, and again, I find that about 50%, maybe more. This is kind of the malady of our age, is digestion. We've done so many things to disrupt our internal flora in its natural state that a lot of people have food sensitivities. A lot of people are aware of it, but some aren't. And I can tell just in general that Stephen is eating something that is a little difficult for his body, to digest. I felt worse, but I can feel it. I can feel it in there. And you'll feel it in your foot right through this area here, and it'll be kind of hard, knotty, tender area. And again, the older we get, the more taxed the digestion is. The more taxed, again, remember the pancreas. The pancreas is what helps to create the enzymes to break down food. So when you're working on small intestine, don't forget the pancreas, because it's up the chain, and it's what's delivering what you need to break down that. So I'm on his pancreas. I decided to just go check out his pancreas. So on your foot, to find the pancreas point, so you know where everybody's foot has that kind of lifted arch up the what would you call it, the apex, is that right?
Instep.
Yeah, the instep, but I'm on the top of the foot, right, the curve that comes up. The tallest part of that, if you kind of draw a line down, across rather, you'll actually be around T8, although you don't necessarily need to know that, but that's right there, and just to the inside is where the pancreas is. Are you finding it on yourself? Yes. He did his tongue thing again. Every time he finds his pancreas, he goes, So anyway, so we're finding here in Stephen's foot, you know, he's definitely got some digestive, feel that? Both sides, right? So in pancreas. So, and again, what you do, ooh, I can really, you have real pain right there. So that could be, that looks like small intestine to me.
That really hurt.
Yeah. So I have issues too with digestion. So this is a great area for me that I can play in with people because I.
If you do massage it, does it help? Or it just tells you that you have a problem?
Well, the whole point of doing this is to harmonize again, right? So some people get a lot of relief from one session, but usually, you know, these things are chronic. We've had them for a long time. So you need to go in, you need to keep rebalancing. You're teaching the body, you're kind of bringing it back into equilibrium again, and hopefully giving you some awarenesses. A lot of times I'll talk to people about their diet, you know, what's causing this, you know, too. And most of us are pretty committed to eating what we want to eat.
That's for sure.
Isn't that the truth? So I'm not giving up my coffee. I don't care what my pancreas says. So, you know, those are all choices that we get to make and live with. And, you know, I'm certainly not here to stop you from following your bliss, but, you know, there are consequences for all of us and different things. So give you as much support as possible, and, you know, you get to keep deciding what you want to do with it. But I'm most excited with, you know, working with people using reflexology in a wider scope of all the tools that I bring and really helping people make big life changes. And I've been focusing on the reflexology since moving to Ashland because of this time I had in Baja, and it was so incredible, everything that was, you know, I was experiencing, that I just thought, God, I wanted to work on people's feet for a while because I just learned so much, and I get excited by what happens in the chair. But what I'm really, you know, most gifted at is helping people really come into higher alignment harmony in their whole life, body, mind, and soul, and using everything in my toolbox to make that happen. So, you know, for those of you who are interested tonight, I do have an email list if you want to put your name on. I'm going to be offering a special kind of consultation for what I call soul-to-soul wellness, the whole body of work, which includes a mini hands-on, because this is where I get a lot of my information. I get it through this, but I also get it through your body just telling me what's happening. So, okay, so we have the pancreas, right? And on the small intestine. So that's where we got up. I kind of went backtracking on Stephen because his pancreas wanted a little attention. So finally, we dump into the large intestine, right? So this always confused me when I was working on myself. You guys seem to do better than this. I'm a little dyslexic. But so you just have to think it's just like your body is. Do people know where the ileocecal valve is on their body? Kind of between your last rib and your hip bone. If you draw a diagonal line, there's a place in there. Some of you it'll be tender. It's kind of like bottom rib, hip bone. Anybody? I bet you if I felt it in your foot, I could feel something. But so the other place you could find it, let's see, is, so it's basically the beginning of your colon on the right side. It's always going to be on the right, going up. This is important, okay? You don't want to be sending your poop back up the chain, right? So make sure that you get it. You always start on the right. You're going up, you're going over, and then you're going down into the sigmoid and out the rectum, from the small intestine to the large intestine, okay? But even if you don't find it, starting about right here, and you're working right up to like what the waistline is, and right directly over. Now most people, not always, the most gluggy in their large intestine at the beginning or at the end of it. Not always, but it's very common. So you can tell when people are processing something down here.
Isn't it right where the appendix is?
Yes, it is. Yeah, the appendix is just below it. I don't really worry about the appendix though. And then you come up, and then you're going to go over. And you notice that I'm working it pretty vigorously and in a direction going up several times, right? So you want to give it your attention. And then over. So this is moving now over. And then you catch up with it on the other side. You work it over. Now, I don't say this to everyone, but just so you know, I'm kind of a sigmoid colon girl, okay? That's where my stuff gets stuck, all right? So I'm very familiar with, and people who have hemorrhoids and different things going on, you know, if you're like me and you have more issues on the descending side, like I've had clients who have diverticulitis and this side lights up for a big time, you know. It's just different for everybody. But you're going to come down, and then right about through here is where the sigmoid is, above that joint. And then you move around right to the rectum right here. So this is the point sometimes when I'm doing talks and people are going, why does it hurt right here in my hand? And I just want to go, you have hemorrhoids? You know? So you don't want to point people out. There's certain things, you know, maybe people don't want other people to know about, but that would be the area in your hand. Anybody feel anything through there for themselves? I was curious. Anybody have any issues that they want looked at in the colon?
I got hemorrhoids, but I don't feel it.
You don't feel it? You have them right now, hemorrhoids?
Yeah, isn't it always?
Well, they flare up. Like when they get flared up and stuff, that's when you're going to really feel it.
I feel it, but I don't have hemorrhoids.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you might just need the facilities later too. Who knows? I mean, it's not always that, but there's a certain quality that I feel whenever I start getting kind of rectal issues. You know, it's a tenderness, and it's almost like a, how do I describe it? It's not a puffiness as much as it is it's almost a drawn in kind of tightness feeling. I'd be curious. You want to come up? Can I see your hand?
Relinquish your seat.
Yeah, I think I need to kick you out of here. We're going to put him in the chair for a moment. Everybody should be in this chair. Nothing else. This is worth the price of admission. The chair is great, huh?
Where do you get one?
I want one in my garden.
Well, actually, they're made for outdoor. They have outdoor, indoor use. It's called La Fume. I'm happy to tell you about it. It's a French company, and there's an American distributor called lafumafurniture.com. That's where I get mine, and you can get them for a fairly decent price, and they're really nicely made. Go ahead and lean back all the way. What's your name?
That chair,
Alit? Hi, Joy. Nice to meet you.
speaking of the chair, there's knockoffs that are sort of
There's
cheaper,
knockoffs. You can
but
get.
they don't seem to be quite as
Yes,
form fit.
exactly, and they're heavier too.
Oh, I see.
You know, these are really lightweight. They're really nice and transportable. They're fabulous, so I highly recommend them. So we're just going to go on Ali here. So for the ileocecal valve, let's see if I can find it on you. Yeah, he does. His ileocecal feels pretty good. Most people's is pretty tender. Yours is not bad at all. Okay, so working the colon. Go up like this. And then over. I'm doing this because I really just want to feel into his whole, large intestine and not just the part he's talking about. Like right through there, feel that little bit. Kind of helping right there. Those juncture pieces are always, can be the trickiest part, where things get gummed up. And it makes sense. Yeah, it's a transition place, right? It's a little kink, or it can get kinked, but it's a looping in there. I had really interesting, a woman who has an S curve in her colon, which I think is interesting. She knows about it. I was like, whoa, her colon on this side just has this, and she found out about it. And look at you, you have a big old, that's the glass, huh? Holy moly, look at that. Oh, God bless you. So have you tried using castor oil packs on it? That's something you might, even just warm castor oil, you know, you could buy a little bottle of it. And is it touchable? Can you touch it at all? Is it so sore? Because if you do packs, it might help draw it out. Might help draw it, and you can like rub around it, rub around it, rub around it. If you want to just try something non-invasive, that's one thing. You can just work it with your warm finger, and then if you want to, you can put like warm flannel and on a hot water bottle, and just let the castor oil do its extraction work. That would be one thing I would try, because it can be helpful for pulling out, drawing out. Okay, so this may be a little bit tricky. I don't want to hurt you
How long
here.
have you had it?
It's gone over a month now,
Yeah, dang.
but I've been definitely compensating my.
Yeah,
my
I bet. Yeah, you got to
Throw
get that
your
out of there.
entire body off.
ear corners, everything.
Does it hurt to walk?
Yeah, I bet.
Throw your entire body off unless you're walking on your hands instead of your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, will that affect the part of the body
I'd like
that
to
it's
lie in a hot
located?
Yeah,
or
well,
something.
it can,
Rub it
although,
out with
yes,
hot
it
water.
can. It can.
Like his intestines might be.
So this is in the area of small intestine through here. Has your digestion changed at all? Have you noticed anything at all?
I've gained a lot of weight.
Have you? Yeah. So we've probably been more inactive as well too, huh?
That's
But
a big part of it, was,
but-
I think metabolism maybe.
yeah, totally. Yeah, that'd be another thing too, is just to really do a cleansing diet, you know. Let your body see if it'll expel it. So I'm working down now. So now I'm working the descending colon down. A lot of times, this is one of the more vigorous parts of a treatment, just because the skin's thicker and you can take it, you know. I haven't talked about the endocrine system, but that's where I put a lot of attention in my sessions these past few years. But it's very gentle. I mean, I'm working with, you know, the pituitary and the pineal gland, working with the thyroid very, very delicately, because it's an energetic, you know, balancing that I'm wanting to do.
And all of that's in your big toe.
The pineal,
pituitary,
the pineal,
and the
pituitary, hypothalamus are in the big toe, and then the thyroid, you know, is just below that in the neck.
Where's the adrenal?
The adrenals are like right here.
Above the stomach.
I'm going to work down here just to see.
Or the adrenals are not above the stomach, they're above the kidney.
They're above the kidney, you're right. So right in through there. Can you feel that at all? That's the only thing I feel is just a little bit of, see, for me, like I get the sigmoid, you don't really have that. Right there, I can feel just a little bit of, right there. Can't really tell, huh? So right there is where the rectum is. Okay.
What do you think happens to people who use these foot detoxification baths that are popular around out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stephen. And you know, I don't have enough direct experience.
Cleansing roots.
I can tell you that I have one friend in Santa Cruz who went through chemotherapy, cancer and chemotherapy, and she was a year out of it. She's the first person I heard about who did it, and she swore it really helped her a lot. So much so that she took her dog, who was her faithful companion, and had the dog. I was trying to figure out how they did that. It's a little dog. Yeah. You feel that at all, or no? Just
Feeling
curious.
a lot energetic.
Uh-huh.
For myself, that's what I work with.
Yeah, I can tell by your breathing. Yeah, okay, let me actually right over here. Just curious now, over here. So, and I had another friend who was a couple years out of chemo. I told her about it. She went and did it, but I don't think she really felt much of anything. But I'm a big believer in detox through the feet, because obviously, again, it's your whole body. So the one that, there's a couple that I recommend. One is putting a tablespoon or two of dry mustard, cayenne pepper, and ginger powder in a very hot foot bath, and soaking your feet for at least 20 minutes until you feel it's great too. They get really hot
Red.
from the spice. you know? And this was really fascinating whenever I did it. So I'll tell you what the process is, and I'll tell you what my experience was. So you do that at least 20, 30 minutes, and then you have a pair of wool socks soaking in ice water waiting for you. And you put those on right afterwards, and then put another pair of wool socks on top of those. And then you go to bed with that on, with a hot water bottle. And I put like a vinyl sheet at the foot of the bed, because there'll be a little bit of dampness. And then you leave it on for at least 4 hours. And what I went through I thought was fascinating. So when I did the foot bath, the top of my foot, which would be the front of my body, got hot, 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 hot. Not the rest of my foot, but the top of it. And I thought, oh, it must be the skin thing, you know, like maybe it's more tender skin. I don't know. So I did that. Then I went to bed, and over the course of 4 hours, my foot went through graduated stages of heat all through the internal organs, which would be on the feet. It went through the lungs, and then it went through the internal organs until down to the core. I mean, it was fascinating. I was like, wow, who would have thought, you know, even me. As much as I love this stuff, it was still surprising to me. So there's that. And then I've recently discovered, anybody know Michael King in town, who works with the sacred clay stuff that he gets out at Klamath Falls?
Oh, yeah.
He sells this bath, and if you go, tell him I sent you. But, it's called pyroclay.com, and I've been really doing some detox lately, and you can do foot baths with his. And this clay, and it's a mixture of different clays and dirt. Right there is what I feel. That one, I just feel it. Yeah. So it might be related more to your sacrum too, huh?
Have you ever heard of Gary Young has these electrical baths you put your feet in and stuff comes out? It looks disgusting.
Well, I think that's what you're
That's what
talking
I was
about. There's a
talking
few
about.
different ones, the chi baths and all this stuff.
Well,
And
now they've got foot pads that you put on at night, and
Yeah.
when you wake up, they're dirty. I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that kind of
kind of.
yeah, but you know, I've read stuff, and they've even say in some of the literatures, I don't know, there's different technologies out there, that the water would turn brown no matter what. Right? That doesn't have anything to do with your what's actually happening. So it's
Well, that's
confusing.
what I'm wondering in the foot pads, if there isn't something in the foot pads that would turn just from the heat.
Well,
of the feet.
Right.
my experience and opinion about the detoxification foot bath, where they do the electrical
right
treatment,
Mhm.
the promotion about it has to do with the extraction of poisons from your body through your feet.
Right.
Or actually not just poisons, but the extraction of material, irrespective of whether it's good or bad material in your feet, because there is an electrolysis process going on that draws it out. So it's not just toxins that are coming out. But when I investigated the literature in greater detail, it's not so much the changing of the color of the water that is indicative of material coming out of your feet, is that having that treatment done to your feet changes the electromagnetic field of your body and affects the organs in your body and promotes them to detoxify and eliminate.
Oh.
So it's a more systemic response, not just your
Right.
feet that's being involved.
Did you experience yourself?
Yes.
And you felt that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I say whatever works for you, go for it. You know, it's there's a lot out there, so and there's a lot of us that need support. So
Yeah, demonstratively speaking,
Yeah.
people see the water, it turns
Yeah.
color.
Yeah, but that
you
doesn't
know,
necessarily
and their
mean
feet
anything.
gets softer and
That came out of me.
so forth. But you know, if you put that thing in just water without your feet in there,
I
it will
love your
change the
receptivity.
water,
Yeah, that's great.
change the color of the water.
That's great. Yeah. So your
It
piriformis.
precipitates out from the water the
Two on this side.
different minerals.
I'm just showing my brother here too some points, like general, like right through there, are points that can help support the back, and the piriformis area is like right through here. You feel that, yeah. So you know he's got some gait issues, some imbalances because of what's going on, and I'm just kind of giving him some just general pointers here, places that he can work on his hands.
Can I ask why you wouldn't recommend that he go to a doctor and have that taken out?
Well, it's not my body or mine to really
No,
recommend.
okay,
Yeah.
so it's not.
If he was coming in and asking me, we'd probably talk about different, possibilities, and he probably has his reasons for doing whatever he's doing. So you are so welcome. So I just want to, honor Ali for incredible receptivity. I don't know if you all heard and felt him energetically when he was in the chair. I don't know if I would call it surrender, but definitely cultivated receptivity and just breathing and being with. And I felt him breathing and allowing his whole field to be in the picture here as I was working on him, which was really beautiful for me. Even I'm in a very more talking state here, so I apologize at one level because I'm not giving you my full attention, but you really supported me. Thank you for being present. So where are we on time?
What about heart?
Oh, she wants to know about the
I've had
heart.
people die
God.
of heart attacks in the last 2 weeks. Two
Yeah.
8:45, Joey. is what it is.
8:25? Okay, thanks a lot, Will.
45.
What was
About
that?
15 minutes if
45.
you want.
15 minutes?
8:45.
It's 8:45? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, great. So the heart is on that big ball of your foot right here. Now, I just want to tell you that different charts have it listed differently. Some of them have it more on the left foot and more like right here. But the way I work it is right through this ball of the foot. And again, this is where it gets a little tricky. So this place where I told you the esophagus comes down, those are also the channels, for the heart coming down as well. So
Might explain why walking is so good for your heart.
right, you're kind of literally pumping it as you're walking along on the ball. I've never thought about that. That's actually very astute. That's great. Yeah, so the thing that I can tell you about people's heart, I know my teacher used to have me work on her heart. I can tell you I've had clients whose feet I worked on who had heart attacks who came back with stents, and by gum, I could feel those stents in their feet.
Stents are on their way out.
And so you have to be careful when you're doing reflexology. You want to make sure what people have lodged in their bodies. You don't want to be mucking around with stents or pacemakers or silicone implants or a lot of other things that you might find. Fine to work on scar tissue, but it was just fascinating.
For instance?
Well, they're going to have scar tissue and stuff, right. So, I'm not at the point of expertise that I can, be right up there with a bypass. In that case, what I would mostly do is work energetically with the person's heart. There are different ways of approaching everything, right? And so a lot of times it's just with intention and blessing for different things. It's a real gentle, energetic exchange.
The heart's very special.
Yeah, exactly. And you can literally tell in people's feet, people who have more enlarged hearts, like very pronounced areas in that part of the foot. Also, people who have more protection around the heart, you'll see it kind of around the outside edge of this ball of the foot, too, which is the pericardium. It's not really the heart so much, but the pericardium, the sac surrounding the heart. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, 90% of the time, my dealings with the heart have to do more with blessing it, like sending it love and energy and blessing, than working it. Yeah. Unlike when I'm working people's muscles and their spines and working out, or their colons like you saw me, I'm working pretty vigorously at that point.
But not
right. So, yeah.
Something else that happens with people who have heart problems, which is not exactly reflexology related, is that their feet and lower extremities swell because the heart isn't
the
able
circulation,
to
right?
Circulate well.
Right.
The fluids.
That makes sense.
Where is that hard point on the hand?
This is where you're going to get me in one of the places that I'm weak at because I don't work so much on that. So
that's okay, we can just leave it.
Yeah. They're great interactive charts you can go online to that have hand charts. If you look up interactive reflexology charts, there's a great one that comes out of the UK. They have all little fun things, and they have pretty good hand charts.
So then, back to the foot, it's on the right side, or is it on both sides?
The heart?
Yeah.
Depends who you talk to. The way I've been taught and the way I work with it is on both sides.
It's on both
Your
sides.
heart's really about right here, you know, and so it's not all over here, right? So I work with it on both, but you'll see charts where it'll be on the left side.
And you're saying it's at the ball.
It's at the ball, right, the ball of the foot, right through here. Uh-huh. And when you see it on the left side, they usually have it kind of next to the ball of the foot, right here. Yes,
You've talked about organs, but what about the organs that are like?
we haven't done all of them.
Like skin and muscle.
Yeah.
But it's more like systems.
Well, the muscle wouldn't be an organ, but the skin would be, of course. And as a reflexologist, I'm always looking at people's skin to see, like I was noticing on you, the dry, cracked heel phenomenon. So I'm looking at toenails, I'm looking at skin, looking at cracks, white, spots, all kinds of things. And so the skin is it's one of our major eliminators. So it's telling us about imbalances. It's a lot of times I see a lot of people who have digestive issues. I'm pointing at you, Stephen, just because we worked on your small intestine and pancreas, but you're not alone.
What does the dry crack?
So I'm about to go there. So it can mean numerous things, but a lot of times it's related to candida, leaky gut, or deficiencies in essential fatty acids is a big one. So it's either an excess of something, imbalance, or a deficiency of something. And again, the kind of looking into the cues of what the rest of the foot is saying. The client and I talk about, what's going on in their diet and and how it can help. So sometimes it's as simple as adding some essential fatty acids into the diet, and other times it's like, you really need to the whole sugar thing, or your body's not digesting well, and so it's coming out in that way. So does that answer your question about that? So
Then the muscle, I'm thinking more of like in fibromyalgia, where they determine it by certain spots on your body.
Oh, I don't know anything.
Being sensitive.
Being
like
sensitive.
like
So let me give you my take on stuff like arthritis, fibromyalgia, reflexive sympathetic dystrophy. There's so many different things. My take on it personally is that it's a toxicity problem, and it can be a multi-level toxicity problem. Anytime you have moving around inflammatory processes like you do with those situations, something is off with the sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system, which means that there's usually an emotional component, but even more than that, the body is under stress, and there's a toxicity, there's an inflammatory process that's going on. So we have these highfalutin names that have come into being in the past 10, 20 years, that just mean, pain, fiber pain, there's pain in the muscles, but it doesn't do anything for helping to solve the problem. But I firmly believe that a lot of us have major issues with just over saturation with pollutants and environmental toxins that the body can't handle anymore. And it really disrupts the endocrine system, which also balances everything, the hormones. And as a woman, I know that when your hormones are off, it affects your mood, it affects your digestion, it affects everything. So there's this chemical interplay constantly going on in the body. And the body is always doing its best to come back to homeostasis and equilibrium. And some of the ways it's going to do that is to have parts of the body, the joints or the muscles, take care of that inflammation. Like it's actually trying to do its part for us to keep us around longer. So that's my take on those pieces.
Chronic fatigue and all that.
All of that stuff. I mean, those are like maladies for our time, right?
It sounds like it.
So, and it's not over yet, folks. So, this is part of my passion too, and sharing this work is I want to empower people to be able to work on themselves, to work on each other, to have simple things that they can do, to listen to the body, because it really is. It's all, I really believe that the body gives us all the information we need, and that the plants have everything we need to truly heal us if we only learn how to listen well enough. Right? So we've just got to kind of get off of the merry-go-round that we've been in of wanting that magic bullet and wanting to eat all of our coffee and McDLTs and, watch TV and not have any suffering. It's just like there's a balance that goes on. And we all get to make the choice, but, I always try to I always tell people I eat, 80 to 90% really good so that I can eat 10 to 20% wicked good, And it's just because my body's really sensitive. It went through some early traumas, and so I have these issues, and so I just am always finding ways to try to, support the body and have a good time, I'm not here to promote being a food fascist or, a zealot in any way. It's all about how much pleasure can we get and how much vitality can we have, simultaneously. And seems like what this planet's about, is enjoying ourselves, so. Anything else before we close? Yes?
Would you do my feet in particular, sort of about the thyroid?
About the thyroid? Sure, come on up. Sure, coming up. So I want to welcome you all too. At the back, I have a half sheet that talks a little about reflexology and me. And you get, with that, 25% off any 60 or 90-minute session. And if you sign the email list, again, I'm going to be sending out, I really want to do more of this comprehensive soul-to-soul wellness package. So I'm putting together a really good deal on that just to get people in. And it'd be a nice, long, lengthy, in-depth session. And I'm also doing a Brima workshop this weekend if you have interest in that. And there's a couple other flyers for friends of mine, more on the Native American end, doing talks tomorrow night that I'm hosting, and then there's a performance. So
You're going to be there at Peace House?
I am. I'm hosting the elders who are coming to town.
I'll be there.
There's 2 elders coming to town who are doing a circle and talk on the way of the discipline of peace tomorrow night at the Peace House. So I'll give a plug for that. Rainbow Hawk and Wind Eagle, and they're lovely people, and influenced me quite a bit in the 90s when I was back in Berkeley. So, and it's their first time visiting here. So if you're free tomorrow night, that should be a good event. All right, so let's get you back here. So she was talking about thyroid. Relax. Everybody always thinks they have to help me here. So it's interesting. Have you had your thyroid tested? And is
Not
it?
lately.
Yeah, because you don't present as a dramatic thyroid issue at all.
As I said, I went on like a
Yeah.
supplement for a while, and then when it went
Right.
down, I just
Right. So what I was talking about is like through here, you would really get a big either bumps coming out or bunion-looking like things. It's really classic, and she actually doesn't have that. Relax your legs. But what I would say is that your lymphatic really is what could use some big support. That puffiness and the tightness. Relax your legs, your feet relax. Heavy.
Well, it doesn't bend the same.
With the chair?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
try to
that's
get
one of-
comfortable.
That's one of my particular things right now, is the tight.
Oh.
tightness feeling.
Oh, interesting. Uh-huh.
So I
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah. Yeah. So if we were at my house, I have all kinds of little accoutrements to get people just right. I get you just really comfortable. I'm just going to touch your knee point. That's right there. I'm just curious. Yeah, you are tight. Yeah. I've worked on this
I feel
body
it
type.
more.
Yeah, right. So I'm just holding her knee points here since she mentioned that. Is there any way?
Can you see
Yeah.
where the knee points are?
Yeah.
Up the calf. back.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you know where your soleus muscle is, anybody know? Okay, it's kind of below your gastrocs and right between your soleus muscle. How's that for an anatomical direction?
Soleus muscle?
Yes.
No.
I really want you to still bend your knees more, even if you can. Oh, thank you. Yeah, a lot of tension, You're a lower body tension holder person. I just made that up. I told her she's a lower body tension hold person. And there are those. There are people who tend to hold a lot in their necks and shoulders, lots in the bellies, and lots in the legs. And she's definitely one of those. In fact, she's doing it. Bend your
The
knees.
other place I have tightness is like.
Yes.
right up in-
Yeah, right. A lot of, so issues in the legs. Issues in the legs. Right through there. So with her, I'm just doing a little bit, we didn't get into this, but, I'm working kind of now with the knees and around and then up. We could spend a long time working through the layers, right, of tension that are going on in her. Bend your knees just a little bit. Oh, God bless you. I want to put something under your knees so you do that. So bend your knees and let's try it underneath. That might help a little bit. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Good.
I sometimes get cramps in my feet.
Yeah, that can happen. So cramping wise,
I do at night, yeah.
right. So a lot of times there's 2 basic things. One is mineral deficiency. potassium, calcium, magnesium. Those are the simple things you can try. A lot of times there's a relationship to people who get depletion of the minerals because they're drinking too much caffeine for their body. So those are the two corollaries.
I don't use any caffeine.
That's good, but it could still be, minerals, mineral deficiency. So you want to up your minerals. And what else would I say about that? There could be other pieces in there too.
Is there any kind of trick to help you? Sometimes my foot is just bent, but I have to push it down.
Right.
I think it gets into a distorted
Yeah.
position.
Right.
And then I just walk around the room until it's okay.
Right.
It's
Eventually-
3 a.m.
Eventually it leaves.
Yeah. Well, I would say try the mineral thing. Get
Yeah.
a really good, high potency mineral thing that you can take in and, find out which one it is.
Every night.
Yeah, if you're having that problem until your body catches up again, for sure. And I would try also the warm foot baths. And then also a lot of times it is, learning to exercise and work the feet as well. It's going to kind of bring you to those edges, but you want to, your body has gotten held in certain ways, positions, right? So you've lost the kind of mobility and motility of the tissues in the feet, right?
What do you think of those things that people use for massaging their feet?
Yeah,
Do you
sure.
still-
Whatever works. Whatever works. Yeah, I have different balls, reflexology balls, and things that I work with that feel great, actually. So, just want to work on your poor little feetsies here. So, do you have fibromyalgia?
That's what occurred.
Yeah.
This all started as my 60th birthday.
Right.
60th birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Everything's, I had these tight muscles there.
Right.
And
Right.
just like out of the blue. And it was right after I was thanking God for my longevity and I'm so mobile and everything.
Oh, how interesting. That's fascinating. Yeah. So that would get me curious, That's the part where I would want to, I don't know how much you heard what she was saying, but that's the part where part goes into more soul, S-O-U-L inquiry. Wow, what's going on? That the body's manifesting like this so fast. Thank you, God, for being alive. Fa-boom. Now all of a sudden I'm tight and all this, my muscles are going higher. That just gets me curious when I hear somebody say that. And so we kind of flesh that out, kind of look at the layers of that as we work on the feet. And it's just like anything, it's that old, as I said, I hope it's okay if I say this on camera, that old damn onion metaphor. It's just one layer after another after another. And it's the same with this work. I mean, it's fascinating. You didn't get a chance to see it, of course, in a longer session, but like, for instance, you go to the pancreas, or in this case, I go to her knee, she goes, oh, I really feel it on this side. Now I work this side out, and then the other side will talk. And then pretty soon it's up the chain and something else. And then we're back again to this knee. It's like the body just has its own way of unwinding and coming back into balance. And so again, my job, our job is that we just track it and we just keep unlayering and unlayering and unlayering. So, wish I had more time to give you. It's
Like
great.
I was going to say, are there knee points on the hands? Because
It's up the arm. It's up the arm, actually.
Oh, okay.
I never work on it that way, but it would be like right up through there. And you'll find it,
Yeah.
right? So,
Also explains
yeah.
when I'm on the computer where that starts to be
Oh, how
different.
interesting. Did you hear what she said about that? Yeah, so her knee point, she thinks, starts to hurt when she's on the computer.
My hand
That's
is
exactly,
swelling and stuff.
right. And do you have a little bit more trouble with this knee?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
That
Yeah.
more the touching points.
right,
Touching
exactly.
points,
Wow, yeah. Oh. Yeah, but you got a tight piriformis on this side. So I'm feeling her knee is it's tighter on this side, but on this side, her piriformis, which is the butt muscle right here, I can feel it even more. It's probably working harder, right? Because it's trying to protect the other side that's having a hard time. Yeah, the body is amazing. I just want to say it again.
Yeah.
People go, how can you work on people's feet all day long? Isn't that kind of gross? Doesn't that get old? And I'm like, man, if you only knew. It's like there's just this treasure trove of information, and so everybody's footprint is literally unique, and so it never gets old because it's always evolving, it's always changing, it's dynamic. It's always dynamic. I'm going to say, God bless you. And come see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm on vacation.
Are you?
I want to be mobile.
Good. Well, you know what? That reminds me of my Pilates trainer days, and I still do Pilates, by the way, at Inward Bound Wellness, which is a great place if you don't know about it. But I found out through rigorous research and working with clients that you know what the number one method is for getting tight hamstrings loose? 3 weeks in Hawaii on the beach doing nothing. I worked with this client for years. We'd work on releasing and opening, and they were so dedicated and doing their stretches. It was 3 weeks in Hawaii doing nothing, unplugging from their stressful world. And they came back and they're like, oh, look at my hamstrings. I mean, it was dramatic. So it just showed me. It's like, it's not what we do, but how we are, and allowing the body again to come back into homeostasis. And that's what things like reflexology really do well. It's like inviting you in to drop, to relax, and to come back into a deeper level of harmony on every level. So, and that's in its ideal state. That's how it's used. So, I welcome you to come see me sometime and join my mailing list. Again, if you really want to get the handy-dandy chart, way better than this, you can check them out at the back table. Thunder can sell them to you for $10. And I hope to see some of you at some of the other events I do.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax-deductible. This recording is not copyrighted, and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.